Tisha B'Av, chapter 10 in the series called Pnimei Halacha by Rabbi Eliezer Melamed. Chapter 10, section 13, page 205. Boker Tov Yov, how are you? I just spoke about you yesterday. Well, not about you. I'm talking about Yov, but whether we can study you on Tisha B'Av or not. In any case, Rav Melamed says as follows in the middle of page 205. Could just get the door small, that'd be great. Technically, there's no obligation to sleep on the ground on Tisha B'Av. This is because of the sage's statement, all mitzvot that apply to a mourner apply on Tisha B'Av, refers only to prohibitions, like washing, anointing oneself, wearing high-quality shoes, engaging in sexual relations, greeting others, and studying Torah. However, the mitzvot the mourner must observe, the positive commandments of a mourner, like turning over his bed and sitting on the floor, technically do not apply on Tisha B'Av. Yet people used to have a bed in the Talmudic times, which was more like a cot, a low cot, and when they wanted to show mourning, you could use it on the flip side also, turn over the bed. This was one of the laws of a mourner. So those laws don't apply technically. Nonetheless, it is customary to express our mourning on Tisha B'Av in the way we lie down and sit as well. Since this is the law, since this law is based on custom, however, it is more lenient than other prohibitions, as we will explain presently. So technically, it's not an obligation to sit on a low stool or to lie on the ground. It is a custom. And here's the details. Some people sleep on the ground on Tisha B'Av. Others sleep without a pillow. Still others place a stone beneath their heads. One who finds it difficult to sleep in this manner may sleep normally. Prevalent custom is to place one's mattress on the ground, thus precluding the need to remove one's pillow. It is best to place a stone underneath the mattress. This way one observes the custom of mourning without making it too difficult to fall asleep. The general idea is we want to not forget that we're mourning even when we're lying down at night. I'd say it's maybe yeshiva students who learn this halacha and they take their mattress and put it on the floor. The halacha also mentions, for example, if you're used to sleeping with two pillows, on the night of Tisha B'Av, sleep with one pillow. And if you're used to sleeping with one pillow, so sleep with no pillow. And if it doesn't allow you to sleep, of course, there's no reason to lose sleep, and that could, damage your health. So, do something to mark the morning when you're sleeping. It's really up to you and your sleeping customs, but the idea is, as we're going to see, that we're not even sitting on a chair because it's high up off the ground. So our beds nowadays are also high up off the ground. So if you're mourning, even throughout the night you should be mourning. So I think that's where the custom came, that we take the mattress off the bed and put it on the floor. We're all very rich nowadays. We have mattresses. Right? In the times of the Talmud, what did we see in the Talmudic village in the Golan? Not you, but others, not you. We saw that there was just like some kind of a throw, a mat or a skin that people would put on the floor, and they'd sleep that way to give a little bit of comfort. I had a friend, I still have a friend, but he used to be part of my community. I moved out of the community, and he was telling me that when he was growing up, they were very poor. Here in Israel, they had maybe 10 children and one bedroom apartment. All the kids would sleep basically in the living room, and they would just roll out a little mat for each child. And that's the way he grew up. Now he has a big 3-story mansion, and he's got those cushy mattresses, like is pretty much standard in the Western world. But he grew up in a different situation. His parents were poor immigrants, and they didn't have. You made do. So we live in a time of material comfort. We're trying to translate the laws of mourning or the customs of mourning to our reality. For some people, to sleep with only one pillow instead of two, that's a significant change. And since it is a question of custom, the custom is to somehow, thank you so much, to somehow mark that we are still mourning even when we go to sleep at night, and you take it down a notch. If you really want to be machmir, you take your mattress and put it on the floor. That's, I think, what Rav Melamed says is common for people who study this. That's a nice way to do it. Again, if you have yeshiva beds, it's a thin mattress, it's very easily to move around. You know, like the guys are used to here, mattress. If you have a bigger, thicker mattress, it can be a big operation to get it off the bed. There's a frame, but it's up to you how machmir you want to be. As long as the custom is to make some kind of noticeable change. Okay, so far so good. Got that? Let's keep going. About sitting, it is customary to sit on page 206. It's customary to sit on the ground, like mourners on Tisha B'Av. However, since there is technically no halachic obligation to do so, he made the distinction just in the previous paragraph between the negative commandments, meaning the observances, which were things we're supposed to refrain from, those 5 things. We added on also Torah study and greeting others, but basically the negatives we keep like mourners, but not necessarily the positive. The positive customs of mourning we don't have to keep. So a mourner whose relative dies, he has to sit on the floor, but we don't have to. But we're stringent. But there's a difference. However, since there's technically, I'm on page 206, line number 5. Since there's technically no halachic obligation to do so, we're not stringent about this for the entire day. Ashkenazi custom is to sit on the ground until midday, while the Sephardic custom is to do so until mincha. Thus, one who takes a nap in the afternoon does not need to place his mattress on the ground. This is why one of the most important times. Good morning, Hananel. I remember you. I even remember your name. It's been a couple days. I'm glad to see you. But anyways, we're learning about the customs of Tisha B'Av. One of the most important times to know, what are the important times to know when it comes to Tisha B'Av? Who can tell me? What are the important times to know when it comes to Tisha B'Av? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nihye b'dvaro. Shkia. Why is Shkia important? Shkia means sunset, sundown. Why is that important to know? That's when we start the fast. No, only for starting. We don't end it at. It's before when the fast starts. It starts at Shkia. When is Shkia? Today? Next week? When is it? Approximately? Today is 7:40. By next week it might be 7:35. Keeps on changing. Yeah, Shabbat starts earlier than sundown. We want to make sure it's like a fence around the Torah. So we always, that's what it says in all the newspapers, candle lighting, and on the radio they announce when is candle lighting time. You notice that they have different times for different cities. That's because there's different customs. How much before sundown to light the candles? Standard across the world is approximately 20 minutes, 18 minutes. And in Jerusalem, the holy city, Tzfat is also a holy city. What's the custom in Tzfat, in Jerusalem? 40 minutes. They double it. They double the 20 to 40. So that's why Jerusalem is always, Shabbat comes in earlier. But technically, the beginning of Shabbat, where you're not allowed to do you can't light the candles anymore if you see that the sun has come down. It's about 7:40 today. I could check on the calendar. Anyways, that's the first very important time to know when it comes to Tisha B'Av. What's the second most important Or some would say it's maybe the first most important time to know when it comes to when you break your fast. When is the fast over? We're all waiting for this. Now, we don't break our fast on sundown the next day, because in halacha there is, I like to call it the twilight zone. Exactly. For Americans, they know the TV show called Twilight Zone. But anyways, twilight is a period of time when halachically it's debated. Is it considered to be daytime or is it considered to be nighttime? What we do is we are machmer, which means we're stringent. In other words, we consider it both. When the day comes in, well, maybe Tisha B'Av has started already, so we already start fasting. Also Shabbat. Well, maybe I'm forbidden from doing work. We don't do any work. We don't light the candles if sunset has happened. I'm giving you the standard opinion that twilight starts at sundown, sunset, and it continues for about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, depends on the elevation, geographical place. But let's say about 20 minutes later, then twilight is finished. And what do we have? What's halachically called Tzeit HaKochavim, the going out of the stars. The stars going out, meaning they come out, we can see them. The stars are always there, we know. But you don't only see them until it's dark enough. So how dark is dark enough to see the stars? Well, it depends. How many stars? How many stars you need to see? You can't see all the stars until midnight. It depends also if you're in the city, if you're in the country. It's what's it called? Light pollution, right? In the cities we have. But there's a calculation. We won't get into all the details right now. The standard calculation that we follow regarding rabbinic mitzvot, most issues, is somewhere around 20 minutes after sundown.
Can we see the stars?
That's considered to be the coming out of the stars. In the Talmud, they said when you can see how many stars? Three stars. What kind of stars?
Big stars.
Not big stars, medium-sized stars.
Not Venus, but you can see like way far.
You can see it in the daytime sometimes. Yeah, I see it every night. It's very right outside my window, by my yeah, it's very bright. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Shabbat is coming in.
So, technically stars.
Okay.
I received the news.
You got it. Nice.
Every-
That's very good.
You know who told me?
No. Yechiel?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Shabbat coming in time is before sundown, then there's sundown, and then there's 20 minutes approximately of twilight, and then it's defined as the stars coming out. Of course, we tend to go by our watches now and not by looking at the sky because of the light pollution, because of the different opinions. But that's why it's good to know when are the stars coming out. Usually the calculation is for rabbinic mitzvot, it's 20 minutes after Tzeit HaKochavim. The earliest time is like 13 minutes after sundown, but it's a good rule of thumb, say 20 minutes, especially depends where you are, what your elevation is, and versus, on the Earth's axis. In any case, so when will the fast end? During twilight, we're not going to let you eat because maybe it's still Tisha B'Av. We said that the twilight period is perhaps still daylight. So we have to wait that extra 20 minutes after sundown, and then it's called Tzeit HaKochavim. What does Tzeit mean? Going out. Yitziah. What is Yitziah? Did you see the signs in the hallway? It's a fire code. You have to have signs that say Yitziah, big green signs. Have you seen those? Yitziah means going out. So Tzeit means going out of Kochavim. Kochavim are stars. How do you say moon in Hebrew? How do you say moon?
I forgot.
How do you say sun?
Shemesh.
Wow, everybody's late today. Everybody's having their breakfast late. Beseder Gamor. I feel bad that I did bring my breakfast. Oh, okay, I'll have some too. And then we all feel, I have, thank you. It's a rabbinic word for moon. What's the biblical word? Modern Hebrew. Yareach. Yareach. And what's the word for sun? So it's a threesome. What do we have in the sky? Shemesh, Yareach, and Kochavim, the stars. So Tzeta Kochavim is when the stars go out. Like I said, they're always there, but it means when we can see them. How many of them? Not all of them. See 3 of them. 3 medium-sized stars. Because you can imagine, it's hard to define what medium is. Nowadays, we have a standard. We go by how far the sun is beneath the horizon, and of course, there's a lot of details. Standard, as I said, is 20 minutes after Tzeta Kochavi, after Shkia, after sunset is Tzeta Kochavi, and then halachically it's night. This is the standard approach, and that means that it's an important time to know. After Tisha B'Av, when can you eat? Let's keep it like today. Sunset is at 7:40. When are you going to be allowed to eat?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock you can eat. We're going to see. We'll check before, next week. We'll check exactly what the times are. But I'm giving you the concept, the framework. So the most important times to know about Tisha B'Av was when it starts and when it ends, right?
Yeah.
Shkia, the full term is Shkiat HaChama. Chama is another word for Shemesh. We said there's Yareach and Lavana. There's 2 words for saying moon. There's also 2 words for saying sun. Chama and Shemesh. So Shkiat HaChama is the setting of the sun. What time?
8:09 in July.
8:09. Okay, so I'm off a little bit. And what time is sunset?
Shkia is it 8:06?
No.
Okay, 7:39.
7:39. So why do they have you wait a full half an hour almost before Tzeta Kochavim? They're pretty machmir. This app or website that you're using, there's different opinions. How long you have to wait till the stars come out after sundown? The truth is, you might have heard of an opinion that says you have to wait how long?
It's an hour and 20?
72 minutes.
That's Rabbi Tam.
Rabbi Tam is a famous opinion. He says you have to wait until the best way to understand it is you have to wait until all the stars come out. That's got to be a lot darker. That's going to be a full 72 minutes after sundown. It's not it used to be standard practice, but now for hundreds of years now already the Jewish communities around the world follow the other opinion. I will tell you this though. What time does Shabbat go out?
It's about 8:30.
Right, 8:30. Or 8:20. 8:20. Why 8:20? Because the custom is, Shabbat, of course, is a biblical law. It's a Torah law. And whenever it's a safek deoraita lechumra. Say that. Safek deoraita lechumra. So when it's a doubt about a Torah law, we have to be stringent. So we wait not 20 minutes, not even 30 minutes. The standard is we wait 35 minutes. Some people wait 72 minutes. It's not a bad idea. But the standard in all the, when they advertise when the Shabbat comes in, when the Shabbat goes out, usually they go 35 minutes after sundown. So if sundown is around 7:40, when would Shabbat come out? When can you do work? From 7:40, add 35 minutes. About 8:15. So you'll see that's pretty much the standard. There's some differences between Haifa and, because it's at a higher elevation. There's Tveria, there's Jerusalem, there's different. Each city's got a more precise calculation. But that's the concept. Tzeta Kochavim is when it's for sure night. For biblical law, we're going to be machmer and wait a little longer until it's for sure night. But for Tisha B'Av, I remind you all, it's a rabbinic obligation, right? It doesn't say Tisha B'Av in the Torah. It's a rabbinic obligation. Rabbinic obligation, the custom is to be more lenient than Shabbat. We don't have to wait till 8:20. We can wait according to Eov till 8:10. According to my calculation, even 8 o'clock should be fine. If you're really, really hungry, you can rely on me about that one. At the Tzeta Kochavim, if it's a rabbinic mitzvah, you could be more lenient. Yes, lekula. That's right. Safek derabanan lekula. Everybody say safek derabanan lekula. Okay, that's the general principle. But those are two important times to know for the fast day: when it starts and when it ends. What's the third most important time to know regarding Tisha B'Av? Your behaviors are going to be dependent very much on another time of day, which many people, many signs, they say, they post it. When they post about Tisha B'Av, they say when the fast begins, when the sundown is, they post when the fast ends, when you can eat. There's one other time. So it's very important. Excellent. What's chatzot mean?
Midday or midnight.
Both. Chatzot. Midday. Why is midday important? It's what we just read on page 206. Page 206. Why is that important? You can't eat after halfway. You can sit on a chair. Some people who grew up in Eastern countries, maybe they're used to sitting on low mats. It's very comfortable, no big deals. You sit on the ground, right? It's comfortable. But for people who are not used to that, and especially when you get a little bit older, it's hard to bend so much. It can be really challenging to sit on the floor. And so you're waiting. Chatzot of the daytime comes. What time is chatzot? If you have the fancy app, I'm sure it has it's a halachic time. Between sunrise and sunset, exactly midday, not 12 p.m. It's going to be a little bit earlier, before 12. No, it's after. It's about 12:30. It's about 12:30. Because it's a long day in the summertime, right? 12:46. 12:46.
According to the Balatania.
Oh, okay. Yeah, some different calculations, but approximately 12:46. That's when the custom to sit on the floor like a mourner, we're lenient about it, and the rest of the day you can sit on a regular chair. Don't get confused and say, I can sit on a regular chair. I might as well take a shower. I might as well have a bite. I'll have a coffee. I can sit like a normal human being now. Okay, bring me my pipe, right? No, all the other laws still apply. No washing, no anointing. You cannot wear your leather shoes yet. All of the laws of Tisha B'Av still apply till nighttime. It's only this minimal custom of sitting on the ground that we relax according to the Ashkenazi custom. He says here, the Sephardim, they keep doing sitting on the floor until mincha. Mincha, you can daven. When's the earliest time you can daven mincha? Nope.
No. Mincha Gadol.
Mincha Gedolah. Yafeh. There's a concept that you can. Mincha is an afternoon prayer service. Afternoon, you can't pray it in the morning, but when the morning's over, then you can pray mincha. So technically, you should be allowed to pray mincha when? Chatzot, at midday. Custom is, because in the temple they would wait an extra half an hour. In the temple, they didn't have the digital watches yet. I think it was only invented about 50 years ago, or less. To tell the time, they would look up at the sky and see where the sun is. The sun's in the middle, it must be midday. But they didn't want to make a mistake, because if they sacrificed the mincha, the afternoon offering, too early, while it's still morning, it was invalid. So they said, we make a general rule, only 1/2 an hour after midday can we bring the afternoon sacrifice. That's the earliest we can bring any afternoon sacrifice. Till this day, that's the earliest you could daven mincha. You have to wait till 12:46 plus half an hour. Well, it's half a halachic hour. When the hours are longer, because you divide the daylight hours into 12, each hour nowadays in the summer is about 70 minutes long, not 60. So maybe you'd have to add 35 minutes onto the 12. What did you say? 12:36? 46? So you'd have to add another half an hour to that. The earliest time for mincha nowadays is about 20 after 1. That's why in this yeshiva, we pray mincha very, very soon. Almost as soon as possible. Right? The earliest you can daven mincha is 1:20. When do we daven? 1:30.
35.
1:35. Depends. Sometimes 1:40. If there's a brit, it's 1:50. 2 o'clock the other day. Sometimes it gets pushed off if the rabbis get excited and keep talking. But it has to be after 1:20. You're not allowed to daven mincha before 1:20. Before chatzot plus half a halachic hour. In any case, this is a good number to keep in mind for Tisha B'Av if you're Ashkenazi. If you're Sephardi, you keep sitting on the ground until mincha time. Mincha, when you daven mincha. You could daven mincha at 5 in the afternoon, 6 in the afternoon, 7 in the afternoon. According to this, the Sephardic custom would be to stay sitting on the ground until mincha time, till you daven mincha. But whatever it is, I'm not sure about the Sephardic custom. If it's till mincha time or when you actually daven mincha.
Now, I don't go into Samad here, when I stay here. There is 2 mincha or something like that. Written down, right? I only go near the Sabbath in the last one. Mincha, there 2 times more.
Yeah, so based on what we were saying, you can daven mincha, you can daven.
Mincha, there's 2 mincha.
You can have 100 different mincha times. Anytime between 12 and a half hours, midday plus a half an hour, 1 p.m., 1:20 p.m., and shkia until sundown, that's the time for mincha. Some people prefer, at 1:20 in the afternoon, I'm so tired, I need to take a nap. I'll daven mincha later, at 5, at 6, at 7. Any time is valid. So a group of 10 Jews decide, hey, let's get together and make a mincha at 4 o'clock, because then we have to travel. That's fine. You could have mincha anytime during that period. The earlier one is called mincha gadola. The later one is called mincha katana. There is even a further division, but we're not talking about all the details of mincha right now. We'll just leave it at that. So you can have mincha whenever you like in the afternoon. So people prefer early, some people prefer later. Whatever more convenient for you.
I saw people praying something.
Religious Jews that are praying mincha after the sunset. What did I just tell you about sunset? What happens after sunset?
Before.
What happens after sunset? What's it called? It's called twilight. Twilight, what did we say? It has a status of day or night? No. We said it's a doubt. It has a status of being in doubt. It's doubtfully day and doubtfully night. Mincha has to be prayed during the day. So you should really only pray mincha until the sunset. Afterwards, you're in trouble because maybe it's already too late. But you're absolutely right. There are many customs about how to calculate the sunset. I alluded to it before. We spoke about Rabbi Tam's opinion. A little bit of different calculations. There are some communities where it's quite accepted that you can daven mincha even after sunset, up until when the stars come out. Because they delay. They say, no, that's not really twilight. Twilight is only what we call when the stars come out, when 3 stars come out. And then there's a much later, when all the stars come out, that's really what night is. So there's debate about how that transition from day to night works. There are communities that regularly pray mincha. They're so risky. They're such risk takers. They pray mincha after the sunset. If you'd ask me, is that a good practice? I would say that's not a good practice. But we have to accept various communities and their customs. They have their rabbis, they have their customs. It is a well-documented custom of many communities. As I said, things changed over the course of 1,000 years, 1,500 years since the Talmud, how the Talmud gets played out, how we calculate the day versus the night. There is a lot of discussion about it. And so maybe I should turn off the camera. I'm making an admission here. I'm just joking. I have sometimes prayed mincha after sunset. It happens. And some rabbis would say, sorry, after sunset, pray Maariv twice. You missed the time. And when push comes to shove, it's clear to many, many halachic writers, standard writers, that if once in a while, if it happens, you can daven mincha up until 20 minutes later, till Tzeit Kochavi, you can still daven the mincha. And I have utilized that. When, for some reason, I couldn't daven mincha earlier, sometimes you even forget to daven mincha. You're so busy with this, busy with that, and then you don't pray in the regular place where you prayed. You're traveling, whatever it is. So you can, on an off day, pray mincha even after sunset for a little while. It's not absolutely night. And but as a standard, I think it's most of the rabbis are against it, except for some unique Hasidic sects who do this daily. But it shouldn't be the standard in my opinion. Okay, is that clear? All right, anyway, so Chatzot Hayom, you can get off the floor. And the truth is, I want to say one other custom, which maybe I shouldn't mention it. Maybe now I should turn off the camera. I'm just joking. Anything I say, I stand behind. I'm not hiding anything from anybody. There is a custom. It's not really documented so much. I think I might have seen once it documented in halachic Sfarim, and I think it's a quite common custom. That's why I want to tell it to you, because I want you to be prepared for joining communities. You will see a different custom. And that is, people know that when you will see what you do on Tisha B'Av. You come to shul, you pray, and then we read from the Torah, and then we start saying liturgical poems that are called, they're lamentations, they are songs about the destruction. Poems, anybody know their name in Hebrew? What they're called, it's a separate book. I'm going to bring it in. No, Eicha is part of the Tanakh. We read Eicha at nighttime. Usually in the daytime we don't reread it. That's part of the service, reading Eicha at night, in the night of Tisha B'Av. But in the daytime, in the morning, we pray the morning service. And then, after reading of the Torah, everybody sits on the floor and recites kinot. The Ashkenazi pronunciation, it's kinos. It's the taf and the saf, right? Kinot, a kina is a morning song of mourning, lamentations it's called. I'll bring in the books, Bezrat Hashem, soon. And so you sit on the floor and you read the book, you read poems from the book, and then you turn the page and you see, anyone want to guess how many pages is this book of these lamentations? Sometimes these kinot are also called lamentations. That's why it's so confusing. Because the book of Eicha is translated as lamentations. But this book of kinot is also translated as lamentations. Essentially, Eicha is a form of a kina. It's a form of a morning song. So it's confusing in English because there are two different books called lamentations. This book of kinot, how big is it? How many pages? How many passages are there?
50 pages.
Obviously, it depends on the printing, right? Big print and little print and commentaries and so forth. They just put out a couple of years ago, beautiful book of kinot with commentary, I think it's like 400 pages. How long does it take you to read a 400-page book? About a month. We only have 12 hours. So there are a lot of kinot. It's a collection of these poems which were written over the course of hundreds of years. This is 400 pages, 300 something pages. So it takes a while. So you sit on the floor and you read the kinot. When you finish reading the kinot, I'll show you the kinot in a minute. Then you finish davening and you go home. Many people, when they finish their kinot, they stop sitting on the ground, even before chatzot. There is such a custom. I don't really justify it, but I want you to be aware that not everybody's so careful about sitting on the floor all the day until chatzot, until midday. That is the custom that we should try to follow, but I think some people are not aware of this. They think, once I'm finished the prayer service, go about my regular day. I go back, I sit in my chair, have breakfast. No breakfast. But they sit on a regular chair. Obviously, if you're driving, you have to sit on a regular chair because you'd crash if you tried to sit on the floor next to the gas pedal. You wouldn't be able to see you where you're going. So if you're driving at Tisha B'Av, you get to sit on a regular chair even before Chatzot. Okay, I'm going to go grab the books and show you what I'm talking about because you'll understand much better. And when we're sitting on the floor, talking about sitting on the floor in the morning, pretty much that's what we do all day long. He doesn't really mention too much about it in the book, so I'll bring the books now and we'll start talking about it. Yes, please.
What do you mean by sitting?
Sitting. It's usually
If I lie down back to the wall, it's sitting.
Yes, that's sitting. That's still sitting. Many people find it hard to support themselves cross-legged without any support. And so they look for the closest wall or pillar or the back of a chair. You see people do that? They flip over the chair. Let me show you. Take your back for a second. Take this chair. Usually I sit on the chair like this. It's Tisha B'Av. It's too high off the ground. How high is too high? Some people say 3 tefachim. This is a tefach. About 8 centimeters. So 3 times 8 is 24 centimeters. I'm above that. This is probably about 50 centimeters above the ground. So I can't sit on this chair until midday. What do? I don't want to sit on the floor because it's dirty. They don't wash the floor in here enough. And maybe we'll see another reason why you don't want to sit on the floor. So people do this. I sit on the chair like this. Now I could break the chair, but I have a back. I can lean against it. It's much easier to lean against something. Other people just lean against the wall. But you're going to see many different methods. Some people bring in a stool that's only so high. That's still within 3 tefachim, 24 centimeters of the ground. The supermarket. All week now, they're selling stools. Why are they selling stools all of a sudden? Everybody's buying stools because they want to have a stool to sit on Tisha B'Av. It's easier than sitting on the ground itself. And they measure the stools. It's a religious supermarket. Precisely 24 centimeters.
Okay, kids' chairs.
Kids' chairs are good too, but it's not so comfortable to sit on. But you're trying to keep the halacha and still not be suffering. Some people, if I had to sit cross-legged for a few hours without any back support, I'd be suffering. It's no mitzvah to suffer. It's a mitzvah to mark the morning and by sitting on a low, closer to the ground. But if you can get a back support, by all means. Some people actually, you know what chairs are very low and have good back support? A futon or a beach chair. You know these really low beach chairs? So it's really ironic that on Tisha B'Av, people are using these beach chairs that are designed for hanging out, for having a good time. And they're using it for mourning. It's a little bit strange, but it's allowed as long as it's not 24 centimeters off the ground. You're allowed to support your back. Now, obviously, you should be in the right mindset. If the sitting back is going to make you feel like you're just enjoying, then it's not the right direction. So I'm going to go grab some of the books from the other room, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay? In the meantime, why don't you read to the end of the section 13? Okay? You can see a little bit what I was talking about just now, all the way to page 206 until the top of page 206. 206 at the bottom.
Just go to the room and sit on the bed. That's fine, right?
The bed is probably higher than this.
No, bed is it's okay.
Three tefachim.
Bed is okay if you wanted to sit on the bed.
Mine is like this high.
No.
The bunk.
Unless you wanted to sleep.
No, I sit on my bed. I have a good time.
Sit on the top bunk.
Yeah.
It's only until midday, so it's okay.
I'm sleeping on the ground.
No, sitting on chairs is considered sitting on the ground. Because people sit on them. I think bunk like is qualified.
I don't know if there's no space.
No, like you go to the show like that. Can't bring my bunk like.
Well, like a cushion or something. They talk about like sitting on a
Yeah.
cushion. It's healthy. It's helpful. If you can use it's
Back
good.
then, earlier people, thank you.
See how my back goes. Good.
Sitting on a chair, sitting on stage, this is sitting on the ground.
Because people step on them.
So you could get a really nice step ladder as a chair.
Or have people walk over my bed. Yeah,
I don't know, I really only know one of the sages. Who did I see?
I'm not taste your well, I don't know myself.
Rabbi, question.
Yeah.
Can I go to my room, like on like Tisha B'Av, and sit on my bed? Is it allowed, like on the top bunk?
Probably not. If you're going to sit, it's above the ground. If you're lying down, the custom is to, take off your pillow or something like that. But you want to keep the custom of actually sleeping on the floor. You take your mattress down to the floor level. Yeah, a bunk bed. If you have nowhere else to sit, I guess it's okay. Ideally, you shouldn't be sitting. Okay, these are the books. Unfortunately, there's not enough. I could only find 3 copies. We used to have, I think, more. But every year, I think a student comes and says, "Oh, I could use this at home." they take it out of the library and then they miss out what a library means. Library means you have to bring it back. Look at that. It's a teardrop. That's sweet. Anyways, this is the book of Keynote. How many pages is it? With English and Hebrew. It's 200. 200 times 2, so it's about 400 pages, right? Now it's a collection of how many keynote are there in here? Let's look at the end. They're numbered. Are they numbered? Yeah, about 50. 50 keynotes. I see here 49 is the last one.
What is the meaning of it?
Kina means a lamentation. Lamentation is a mourning poem. A poem which describes your pain, describes the tragic events, and basically everybody has to have one of these books. They sit on the floor in shul on Tisha B'Av morning after the regular service and after the Torah reading, and then some communities do it together, everybody does it at their own pace. In a lot of communities, and I think it's a good custom, they don't recite all 50 because it could take you till Shabbos. They choose the most meaningful poems. They choose the most popular poems, the ones which some shuls they explain what they mean, and that's a good idea because you don't want to be just reciting words for. Now the original custom was that you would recite kinot all morning long, from morning services, 8 a.m. up until chatzot, till midday. That's really the most intensive period of mourning. Of course, the nighttime it started. We read Megillat Eicha at night. And the following morning, you recite kinot all morning. And they help you understand the destruction. There's one little poem about when the Torah scroll was burned in Germany, written by the Maharam Rothenburg. There's one poem about the destruction of the 3 communities in France: Speyer, Worms, and Mainz. Thousands of Jews were killed, so they wrote a kina. Kina with a kuf means this poem, this liturgical poem of lamentation. And throughout the centuries, whenever a tragedy happened, the rabbis would write, or the poets would write, an additional kina. Who can tell me, in every synagogue, almost, there's going to be these books. Sometimes the shul has a bunch of the books. You should take one of theirs if you know Hebrew. If you need English, you're going to have to go to an English-speaking community or buy one or borrow one, or you could have it online. Yeah, I'm sure there's online keynote apps. I don't know. I haven't looked. There is.
No, in they have this PDF form.
In English?
English.
So show the group. If you find something good in English, by all means send the group. But in every synagogue, what do they have in addition to these books? They have photographed pages of new keynote, relatively new keynote. What happened in the last century that wouldn't be in the traditional books? Exactly. Many communities add a kina about the horrible destruction of the 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. 1.5 million children, unspeakable methods of death and torture. So many communities add a kina for the Holocaust. Believe it or not, Hananel, there's even some communities that add a kina for the expulsion from Gush Katif. There were communities there that were destroyed by Jews, no less, and they were thrown out of their homes and they destroyed Jewish towns in the land of Israel. So many communities add a kina for that too. But without adding any, it's already so many. There is if you're going to buy one, by the way, if you're not going to use the PDF or you can borrow these from the library. If you want to buy one, I would buy one with a commentary. This is just a translation. Some have a translation and a commentary. There's a commentary by, so every Tisha B'Av, Rabbi Soloveitchik, the great Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik in America, in Boston, he was the leader of American Orthodoxy for 40 years. Every year his custom was to sit on the floor on Tisha B'Av morning and say Kinot for about 4 or 5 hours, explaining each and every one. He just wouldn't say it only in Hebrew. He would say it, he would teach about the history of each Kina and his explanations. He was one of the greatest rabbis of the generation, maybe of many generations. They transcribed his teaching and they put it into a book. So you can find the Kinot with the explanations of Rav Soloveitchik, which are an amazing commentary if you're going to choose a commentary. But of course there's other commentaries of different kinds. This is pretty much a translation, but Koren. That's the,
it's by Chabad. Like Chabad published it online. It's on the group.
oh, thank you. With any commentary or a translation?
Ayecha, and then there's keynote, and highlights the morning eulogies, additional elegies for the Holocaust.
Yeah, but there's no commentary. It's just a translation into English, which is good. It's very good. This is the translation, the first translation to English that was popular, but there's not enough here for everybody. You'll manage with that's a great resource to have on your phone. In any case, what some people do, they recite, as I said, some communities, the rabbi will put out a page of, we in this community are not going to recite all 50, we're going to do about 20. And I'll say, we're going to go to page 10, then to page 45, and then to page 67, and then to page 172. And they follow that order of that community. The problem is, of course, not everybody has the same book. So the page numbers are not the same. So it's very hard to skip around. You have to figure it out. So you can have, sometimes there's a chart where it says, on this edition, it's on this page. On that edition, it's on that page. On that edition, it's on that page. So you have 3 columns in order to guide you. But of course, if you have time, they're beautiful poems, all of them. Some of them are harder to understand than others. Questions? Is that clear? What we do on Tisha B'Av morning, recite Kinot while sitting on the floor. Now this was what I was telling you. Yeah. Well, some people skip. That's what I was saying. Some people, after Shacharit, yeah. Some people skip. And they don't recite the whole thing.
But Rob, is there any changes in the Shacharit prayers?
We're going to talk about that. That is in the book. Okay? What some people do, yeah. What is Chabad? Chabad, it's a group of Jews, a religious group of Jews who follow a tradition of a certain style of Judaism. That is what is Chabad is. People keep mentioning Chabad, Chabad, Chabad. They're a group of Jews it's a Jewish community. And why does everybody know about them? Because one of their guiding principles is that, of course, we're a community for ourselves, but we care and love about Jews everywhere. And we want to reach out to try to assist and aid any Jew anywhere in the world. And so they have publications reaching every language, trying to teach Torah to a Jew wherever he is. They even have what's called a Chabad house. What's a Chabad house?
It's like a foreign office.
It's usually they have some kind of a synagogue also, but primarily it's a house for Jews to gather. It's a Jewish community all over the world. There's a Chabad house. Some people make the joke. They say there's only two things when you get to the moon. What are you going to find? You're going to find a big billboard that says Coca-Cola and the Chabad house. Because they're everywhere. Because they're trying to reach all the Jews. But essentially Chabad is a community, Hasidic Jews. It's a type of Hasidic sect. And they do amazing work. In a nutshell. Okay?
It was founded by the Lubavitcher Rabbi?
Yes, it's a chain of rabbis, father to son, and son-in-law as well. And the founder of this chain, this group, was a student of the Maggid of Mezrich, who was the primary student of the Baal Shem Tov. So it goes back to the beginning of the Hasidic movement, and this is one strain of Hasidim. You know, you've heard of other strains of Hasidim. What other Hasidic groups are there? Breslov you've heard of. What else have you heard of? Bells, right. Tzans. My family was Hasidim of Tzans, going back hundreds of years in Europe. Bobov, I have relatives. Satmer, you've heard of different Hasidic groups. They're usually named after the town where the great rabbi founded the movement, founded the community. So of course, Belz is the name of a town in Poland, and Satmer also, and Lubavitch is the name of a town in White Russia. Another name for Chabad is Lubavitch. Same thing, it's the same group, Lubavitch. He's known as, their Rebbe was known as the Lubavitcher Rebbe, because he came from Lubavitch, or his father-in-law came from Lubavitch, right? He was the son-in-law. The last Rebbe was the son-in-law of the previous Rebbe, not actually father to son. But yeah?
I'm a member of the organization since I converted myself. So in my structure of my money, they take about 20 shekels every month.
You're saying that you decide to donate.
Donate.
You donate to Chabad every month.
Yeah.
Lovely. What a great donation.
All over the world,
Yeah.
I can go there and eat and say, I'm here.
That's right. A Jew anywhere in the world has a home to turn to. What an amazing phenomenon. What an amazing service, a project. It was founded by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it exploded exponentially with the last Lubavitcher Rebbe, the seventh Rebbe, and believe it or not, he was such a powerful leader that even after his death, the project of sending rabbis, or he called them shlichim, right, agents, to all over the world, it even grew more and more after his death. People realized this is their way of continuing the tradition of the last Rebbe. This project of reaching out to Jews everywhere is amazing. So you donate to them. Wonderful. It's a good donation. It's a good place to donate.
It's really important because I travel a lot.
When you travel, it's very important. Yeah.
Any place you go, there is somebody there. Just
Almost. I don't think there's Chabad in Malaysia, is there?
It used to be.
There used to be, but then there's.
Because the Prime Minister against it.
In Manipur, is there? No Chabad there. In Hong Kong, is there Chabad?
yeah.
Very big Chabad, I think, in Hong Kong. Not so big. Okay. And where are you from? Delhi? There must be. Oh, Kerala. So is there Chabad there? No. Okay, they're not everywhere. Okay, almost everywhere.
Like 6-7 places in India.
Yeah.
Maybe I should start.
Start your own, but you're here. You know.
They used to have to help with the Kadisha, several Kadisha.
Nice. Very nice.
The guy, the rabbi, if they have a rabbi, they.
Very good. Yeah, some of them are rabbis.
It's incredible.
Amazing. Okay. Anyways, that's what Chabad is. So when they say that the app that was publicized by Chabad, that's what it means. That this group They wanted to spread Torah. They wanted it to be accessible to everybody. So they invested time and effort into printing this, so that everybody who doesn't have maybe a shul, they can still say the kinot at home or even in shul. If you don't have a volume, not every shul has an English language kinot.
Rabbi, are you allowed to use phone in the morning to see?
Yes, you can use the phone. There's no prohibition of work, of electronics, there's no muktzeh. It's not like a festival in that way. So you can drive, you can use the electronics, and use your phone by all means in the shul. Yeah. On Tisha B'Av. All right. So you read that we sit on the ground, and if it's difficult. If you have back pain, you don't have to go crazy. You can sit on a regular chair. This is not a mitzvah from the Torah. It's not even a mitzvah from the rabbis. It's actually not obligated. It's a custom that we of course, it's a beautiful custom. And what I was saying to you, though, is, by the way, that you may see some people think that the custom of sitting on the ground is connected to the kinot. So we only sit on the ground when we're saying the kinot. If we finish the kinot, most people don't say it for 4 hours. Let's say they say it for an hour. In my community, within an hour they're done. The rabbi says, skip to here, skip to there. He puts a page about the 20 best, most impactful kinot, and then people lose their attention. So he says, we're not just going to mumble. We're going to say these, and then we're finished. You're finished, you go home. Many people think, go home. I don't have to sit on the floor any longer. Really, the custom is, you should, even at home, sit on the floor or on a cushion or a low stool until midday, till chatzot. Is that clear? But there are communities where they connect the two. And if you're finished kinot, you don't have to sit on the floor any longer. I don't know how justified that is. I think I might have saw it in one book where this is the custom of that community. But most halacha books say chatzot. You can only get up from the sitting on the floor at midday.
You mentioned a book.
The keynote book I've been talking about.
Yeah, that you have the commentaries. That you can into more commentaries.
The Quran has a commentary. There's many. There's quite a few books, keynote with commentary. Yeah, just go to any bookstore and mostly they'll have the most beautiful one. The most beautiful one is the latest one from Quran, and they have Rav Soloveitchik's commentary, which is unsurpassable. But I will tell you that some communities and some individuals, they refuse to buy the keynote books. They use some old ones and there's not enough. You know why?
They don't want to buy new things?
No.
Or anything?
So what?
You're not supposed to buy new things.
I'll tell you what I would do. If I had money, what I would do is the day before Tisha B'Av, see, okay, Mashiach hasn't come yet. I'll buy the book. I'll do the morning. Tisha B'Av's over. Throw it in the garbage. Why? Why should I throw it in the garbage? Because I have to have faith. Next year it's going to be a party. We won't be saying the keynote anymore. Right? We want Mashiach to come. Mashiach comes, we won't say the keynote anymore. So I'm going to buy a book for one day, for 1 year. Every year, there's some really pious Jews, every year they buy a new keynote. Because when Tisha B'Av is over, they throw out the old one. It's a sign of faith that Mashiach's going to come. Unfortunately, it's been a couple thousand years. So, it might not be so practical to buy a new one every year. And so you do keep them, and they do print out a new one, and it's a beautiful one. And we don't know when Mashiach is going to come and when the temple is going to be rebuilt. So some people, they don't do that custom. But I understand why. Some people say, I don't even want to buy it. It's just temporary. I'll borrow for 1 year. By the next year already, I won't need it. And the next year comes and say, I don't have a book. I'll borrow again. I'll use the shuls because I don't want to buy it because buying it means that you're going to be using it for a while. And really our hope is that we won't ever say these again. Tisha B'Av is going to change its nature. It's a spiritual statement, yes. Okay, so that's the keynote book. I want to teach you one or two of them. They're very beautiful, but we won't do it now. This volume, if you had a chance, it was passing around. This volume has two additional things I want to show you. One thing is, it has, like it says in the title, tefillot. It has the tefillot, the rest of the morning prayer. It has the whole morning prayer at the end, which is nice. So you don't have to hold two books, your Siddur and the book of Kinot. Because you've got all the davening in the Kinot book. So that's one benefit, is that you have basically a prayer book together with the Kinot. One other thing, and that is used for the night of Tisha B'Av. What does the service look on Wednesday night, a week from now? Today's Thursday, last night. What's going to happen? You go to shul for Mariv. We're going to see it inside, but what do we do at Mariv? We say the regular Mariv. Some people don't sit on the chairs in shul because the minute sundown has come, all the rules of Tisha B'Av apply. Until midday the following day, we don't sit on a chair. So I stand usually for Mariv. Some people sit on the floor. Common custom is, people don't know about this, they sit on a regular chair, but after Mariv is over, after the Amidah, it's usually before the Aleinu, everybody sits on the floor. They find a corner, they find a back, they find some kind of a stool, maybe they bring a pillow with from home. Everybody sits on the floor. And what do we say at night after Mariv? Not Kinot. Kinot, these poems made throughout the ages. That's for the morning time. What do we say at night? That's right. The original Kina, you could say. It's part of the Tanakh. Who wrote the book of Eicha? Most people attribute it the sages. No? Solomon was the builder of the temple. Who was the prophet? Who was the destroyer? Not the destroyer. Who? Jeremiah. No, Ezra was rebuilding the second temple. The prophet of destruction was Yirmiyahu. So, according to tradition, not only the book of Yirmiyahu was the prophecies of Yirmiyahu, but also the book of Eicha. Eicha is one of the 5 Megillot. What are the 5 Megillot? On Purim we read Megillat Esther. On Tisha B'Av we read Megillat Eicha. What are the other 3? Well, there are 3 festivals. There's Shavuot, Sukkot, and Pesach. On those 3 festivals, each one has a Megillah. Shavuot is Megillat Ruth, Pesach is Shir HaShirim, and Shavuot is Kohelet. 5 Megillot. Okay? Purim, Tisha B'Av, and then the 3 major festivals. 5 Megillot. Megillat Eicha was written by Yirmiyahu the prophet, according to our sages. It has 5 chapters. Someone reads it. Sometimes they divide it up among people. On the floor. And then you know what the custom is? We're going to see it inside in a minute. Custom is they dim the lights. It's nighttime. You can barely see, but this is a sign of mourning. It's not a celebration where you have more lights and candles. We dim the lights and we sit on the floor or on a stool or on cushions, whatever it is, and we read Megillat Eicha. And then after Megillat Eicha, so that's what this book has. It has not only Kinot, it also has the book of Eicha. It's only 5 chapters, so why not?
The order of the Megillot is the order of the year. festivals. It starts
What's
with
the order here?
Shir Shirim.
Shir, Shirim, Ruth, Eicha, Kohelet,
Ruth is
Esther,
Shevuot.
Daniel, Esther. Right, you're right. It goes in the order of the calendar. That's nice. Never thought of that. Nice. Ruth, we said on Shavuot. And Eicha now in the summertime. Good. All right. The truth is, at nighttime also, at nighttime, after we finish Eicha, 5 chapters that everybody reads, you know where they, sometimes Jews want to be, by the way, you know that Tisha B'Av is a national day of mourning according to law, Israeli law. All the theaters are closed. All the restaurants are closed. No nightlife on Tisha B'Av by law, because it's the national day of mourning. Even secular Jews who don't keep Shabbat, they know that Tisha B'Av is the national day of mourning. And so what you have, maybe some groups of Chabad or other groups will want to give some meaning to people who don't know much about the Jewish history. So they'll do a public reading of Megillat Eicha. Maybe in Kikar Rabin in Tel Aviv. Maybe in Kikar Safra in Jerusalem. You'll have groups making a circle, sitting on the floor, and somebody will read the book of Eicha. The truth is, in this book, you'll find in Shul, after Eicha, there's also an additional 5 kinot. We don't only read the book of Eicha at night, we do a few, only 5 kinot of these liturgical poems, which were written specifically for the night of Tisha B'Av. Some of them mention the stars and the constellations, how they're weeping for Jerusalem, together with the Jewish people. Beautiful poetry, describing and making powerful the mourning of the Jewish people for the destruction, which we commemorate in this Tisha B'Av. And then you go home, you go to sleep on the ground, with a pillow, without a pillow, whatever it is. You don't have dinner. You had Suda Mafseket just before. You go to sleep. You get up in the morning, you go to Shul, Daven Shachrit, and then you recite the rest of the Kinot. Same book. You recite the Kinot for the morning. And it does say in the Halakha that some people repeat Eicha a second time in the morning, but most people don't. So you could do it privately, of course. What are you going to do the rest of the day? What are you going to do? Watch Netflix? Going to watch BBC movies? What kind of Reform rabbi told you to watch movies on Tisha B'Av? Anyways, you can't study Torah. Anyways, you should recite the Kinot. You don't have to skip like they do in my community. But sometimes you have to make the calculation of what's the best way to bring the morning present in your life, for you, for your level. Sometimes it could be reading the translation of the rest of the Kinot. Sometimes it could be reading the book of Eov. Sometimes it could be reading Gittin 55, 56, 57, right? Right. Beseder.
So the students have to be here in the Shiva?
The students don't have to be in yeshiva, but what better place to be than where you live? You could go to the kotel, yeah. A lot of people go to the kotel. I don't think there's a program. In the afternoon, there is this lecturer, teaches about the Beit HaMikdash. In the morning, we recite Kinot like everybody else. It's good to recite it with your rabbi, if possible. Maybe he can inspire you, he can give you some explanations. For many years, I would give Kinot with explanations, patterning, perhaps trying to copy Rav Soloveitchik. And give some. I noticed that if you just say a few words about the history of the poem, about what the theme is, you don't have to translate every word. Just notice where it came from, what it's describing. It makes a whole different experience, very powerful experience. You don't need to translate every word. You just need to describe what the, who the author is and where he came from and why he wrote this poem. What tragedy in Jewish history was he referring to? It makes the experience of Tisha B'Av much more meaningful.
The Kabbalah, I never experienced to read the keynote when I was in
Really? What did you do on Tisha B'Av morning? Not every Chabad has a shul even. Not every Chabad has a minyan even. But if there's a minyan, if there's a shul, it's the standard custom on Tisha B'Av morning. You recite the keynote.
It was in the Kotel.
At the Kotel, that's what everybody's doing. You'll see people making minyanim, but then for the regular service, but then you'll just see people all day long sitting on the floor with their book of keynote, reciting the keynote. Maybe you didn't know about it, so that's why you're here. You're learning something new. Now you'll notice. You'll see that the book says on it keynote. You thought they were reading Tehillim. You thought they were praying Shachrit or Mincha. No, they were saying keynote.
So we don't skip any portions on Shachrit.
We're going to see what the changes are to the Shachrit. Shachrit is very different. We already said one difference. Zachariah, what's the one major difference? No Ya'aleh V'yavo. That's for festivals. It's not a festival. Yeah, but the most noticeable, Zachariah, what's the most noticeable change? On the Shachrit, no, not on Einu. No.
This is the prayer that we had in the Hamidah for.
No. It's a little bit of an external change, but you'll notice it. We're not sitting on a regular chair, but more than that.
Sit on the ground.
We mentioned that we talked about, it says in the book of Eicha that I give you ashes instead of glory. We don't put on tefillin in the Shacharit service. And no talit in the Shacharit service. We do it at the Mincha service. Only one day a year on Tisha B'Av. We don't put on tefillin at Shacharit. That's a noticeable difference. We'll see some more details in a minute. Yeah.
During Shachrit, do you sit on the floor?
You should, yeah. Some people, they associate it only with saying the keynote. But I think the standard halacha is you should sit on the floor until chatzot. That's the custom, the common custom is. So during Mariv and during Shachrit, you should not be sitting on a regular bench or chair. You could stand if you like, but you can also sit on a low stool. Some people look for a step. There's steps going up to the bima. You'll see people crowding in there because it's more comfortable to sit on a step than it is to sit on the floor. Okay, let's proceed. We're gonna see inside. He discusses all the details. First, one more halacha about Tisha B'Av. Are you allowed to work on Tisha B'Av? Let's say you're a doctor, you're a lawyer. Let's say you have a store and you sell things. Let's say you're an electrician. You fix people's electricity. Hananel, let's say you're a plumber. You know electricity, right? Right? Let's say, so you get a phone call that says, I really need my electricity fixed, please. Or your fix appliances. My mother has a hot water heater. It just broke. So she called a repairman. Can he come in and fix it on Tisha B'Av? Are you allowed to work on Tisha B'Av? What's the law? Let's learn and we'll know. Eov, read for us, page 207.
Working. Sages state, anyone who works on the Shabbat will never see any sign of blessing from him.
Well, are you going to work? Are you going to work after that? The truth is, it's not prohibited. But the sages say, basically, it may not be worth your while.
If someone isn't really in need and they call you.
Exactly. Keep reading and you'll see that. Exactly.
Tanit, the reason for this is that working distracts one from mourning. However, the sages did not prohibit work on Tisha B'Av explicitly, rather some places had a custom prohibiting it. While other places had a custom permitting it, thus the sages ruled that the local custom determines one's obligation, which means that one may not work on Tisha B'Av in a place where it is customary to refrain from working. Sahim 54b. Nowadays, the entire Jewish people have accepted the custom to refrain from working Tisha B'Av until midday. It is proper to continue doing so after midday as well in order to remain focused on morning. Therefore, we work after midday only if there is a great need.
Did you ever heard of such a thing? Where there's a... I know that on Shabbat you're not allowed to work. And I know that on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you are allowed to work. You ever heard of this? There's a day which you're allowed to work half day. Only in the afternoon are you allowed to work. That's a common custom. That we try to not work because what are we supposed to be doing in the morning of Tisha B'Av? Kinot. We're sitting on the floor saying kinot. We're mourning. But in the afternoon, we said it relaxes a little bit. You're allowed to sit on a regular chair. Well, some people go back to work. They go into the office, check their emails. If there's something they have to respond to, right? Some people do that in the afternoon. Is it ideal? It's not ideal because it's not the day. All day, really, it's still Tisha B'Av. But sometimes you have to, for a need, you can relax that custom. Go ahead.
Types of work that are prohibited on Tisha B'Av are those that take time and occupy one's thought, like sewing, mending clothing, repairing furniture, fixing electrical appliances, and computers. However, tasks that take little time to complete, like lighting or extinguishing a candle, tying or untying a knot, and traveling for necessary purpose are permitted because they do not distract one from movement.
Or, what's another example, Stephen? Of a type of work which doesn't take much time or occupy one's thoughts? Using your phone, using electronics. Officially, it's prohibited work on Shabbat. But on this day, that's not really considered work. It doesn't take any time. It doesn't take any effort. It doesn't take your mind off of, well, it could take your mind off of going on your phone, could take your mind off of the morning. So go on the phone to the PDF of the keynote, yes. But going on your Facebook or whatever websites you like to look at, that takes your mind off of the morning, so it's not right. Okay, go ahead.
Writing is also considered work because it is distracting, but one can copy all the things that are related to Tisha B'Av. One may sell food items on Tisha B'Av so people have food for the meal after the fast. At midday, one may begin preparing for the post-fast meal. Some women have a custom to clean the house meticulously after midday in anticipation of the Mashiach, who is supposed to be born on Tisha B'Av. And one should not denounce their actions. 559. A Jew may instruct a non-Jew to do work for him on Tisha B'Av. However, one may not instruct a non-Jew to do the work that is done in public, like building a house or doing business in a store, because it appears disrespectful to the communal moment. Mishnah Berurah 554-26. One may do work on Tisha B'Av. Delaying the task will cause significant monetary loss, similar to the law on Machon Meir.
Okay, so what do you find people doing in the morning? If you walked into an average Jewish home of an observant Jew on Tisha B'Av morning, where are you going to find people doing? Sitting on the floor reading Kinot, or studying Eicha, or reading something about the destruction. If they may be reading a book about the Holocaust, right? We said in the afternoon also. What are you going to find in the afternoon after midday? Okay, they'll be sitting on the couch, but they're still doing the same type of morning-related activities. Maybe they're watching a movie about the Churban. Maybe they're reading the halachot of mourning, whatever parts of the Tanakh they're allowed to read. Maybe they're studying. Maybe they're sleeping. What do you find in the average Jewish home in late afternoon? on Tisha B'Av. What? No. Most people don't have to work. You don't have to work. Yeah. That's it. They're doing sponja. They're cleaning the house. They're getting the meal ready for afterwards. This is a beautiful custom. Anticipation of Mashiach coming. There's a tradition that Mashiach's going to come after Tisha B'Av. What did I say yesterday? There's a new custom. People go to the kotel and they sing songs together in the circles of unity. It's a nice custom. Anyways, towards the end of Tisha B'Av, we're sort of feeling positive that this will be the last time we go through this morning. This morning. Excuse me. Period. Okay, continue. Let's catch up with ourselves. Let's continue. A few more minutes. Reading Eicha. Who's going to read for us? Zachariah. You might want to fix your kippah.
Reading the lights.
Yeah.
We read Eicha after praying Mariv. According to the Ashkenaz Rishonim, we recite a bracha over the reading of Eicha, as is explained in Sofrim, chapter 14, verse 6. That we recite brachot over the reading of all Megillot. Others rule that we only recite a bracha when the Megillah is written on parchment like Torah scroll. If it is not written on parchment, we do not recite the bracha when we read it. Conversely, still others rule that even when the Megillah is written on parchment, we do not recite a bracha when we read it, because since this bracha is not mentioned in the Talmud, many Achronim ruled this way because of the uncertainty of the matter. In practice, all Sfardim and many Ashkenazim, including Al Hasidim, read Eicha without reciting a bracha, while some Ashkenazim, especially those who follow the Gaon's practices, read it from a kosher parchment scroll and then recite a bracha. It is customary to darken the synagogue in the night of Tisha B'Av, as it says, "He has made me dwell in darkness." Eicha, chapter 3, verse 6. Midrash, Eicha Rabbah, similarly states that God said to the ministering angels at the time of the destruction of the temple, "What does a human king do when he is mourning?" They replied, "He extinguishes the lamps." God said to them, "I will do the same," as it says, "Sun and moon are darkened." Already at the beginning of the night, we turn off some of the lights in the synagogue. It is proper to do the same at home. The main thing to be meticulous about is to dim the lights for the reading of Eicha, because that is when it is customary to blow out all the candles in the room, except for the few that were needed for reading Eicha. Now that we use electric lights, some turn off all the lights before the reading and produce the necessary light with candles alone. Others keep a few electric lights on. The institution to read Eicha with the congregation, primarily related to reading it at night. As it says in Eicha, verse 2, bitterly she weeps in the night. However, many people have a custom to read it again during the day after reciting the keynote. In a place where the congregation does not read Eicha publicly during the day, it is proper for each individual to read it by himself.
Okay, we're going to stop here in this chapter. It's Friday, almost Friday. It's Erev Shabbat. Today's Thursday, right?
Yeah.
All day?
Today's Thursday.
Yeah.
So let's learn a song, L'Chavod Shabbat Kodesh. Bring out the Zmironim. Last few minutes. This is our custom on Thursdays. Wishing you all a restful Shabbat. I think I'm going to nurse myself back to health from my little cold I've been fighting all week. It's my throat.
Sickness that everybody got.
Yeah.
Or at least a quarter of us got.
To play, not to pray.
Okay, please turn to the prettiest picture in the book. Which is the prettiest picture?
Ooh, the Etrog.
Yeah, you like that one? Actually, I want to teach you the following song. It's on page...
No? Yeah?
No, maybe.
Page 152, please. Page 152 is the meal, the grace after the meals, Birkat Hamazon. What, we say that every day. Well, there is a poem that's recited at Tehillim 137, which some people say every day. And in the middle, on Shabbat, we replace it with Tehillim 126, Shir HaMa'alot. But the poem, Tehillim 137, in the middle, has one of the most poignant statements of sadness, of commitment, of faith to Jerusalem. It's recited at most weddings. It's the third line in where it says, Al Naharot, by the rivers of Babylon. Shmuel, read for us, by the rivers of Babylon. You see the middle paragraph?
In English?
In English, please.
By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat and wept as we remembered Zion, there on the willow trees we hung up our harps. For there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors for amusement said, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How can we sing the Lord's song on foreign soil?
Here comes the sentence. Everybody see it in English? If I forget thee, you might even know it off by heart. Go ahead. If I forget you, Jerusalem.
May my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you. If I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joys.
There, stop there. So these two lines is many times sung at weddings. It's sometimes sung on Shabbat afternoon in the Suda Shlishit, when we yearn for Jerusalem to be rebuilt. It's a statement of how we place Jerusalem above my highest joy. Right? We always have to remember Jerusalem at every wedding. What do we do at a wedding to remember Jerusalem? We break a glass. That's right. Many times before breaking the glass, they sing this song or they recite these words. I want to teach you that song, okay? In the Hebrew, it starts, Im Eshkachech. You see it in the Hebrew in the third line. There's two dots, a colon, and then it says, Im Eshkachech. Everybody see it? There's a few different tunes. Let's. What's that? Karbach. Hang on one second, please. I'm going to. I showed you that there's an app called the NCSY Bencher, which has a lot of good tunes. Let's see if they have. Let's see if they have it here. Yes, they do. Let's see if it works. Yeah. There's even a few versions. You want to do the Karbach? Here it comes. Can you push the on-off button on the speaker, please? Follow along in your Siddur. You see it over here, line 4. One more time. We'll start from the beginning. Here's a new version, made famous by a singer called Shweki. I think we sang it at the Brit the other day. Always remember Jerusalem. Do you have time for one more? Another tune? Another tune? Let's try the next one. What happened? Disconnected? I'll start at the beginning again. Have a great Shabbat. Shabbat Chazon. Shabbat where we read a special Haftarah. Yeshayahu Hanavi warning of the impending danger of the destruction. May we take it to heart and improve our ways. Have a wonderful, wonderful... It's still Shabbat, even though it's under the influence of Tisha B'Av. This coming Shabbat, we still celebrate and enjoy the meat and wine.
We don't mourn, right?
You know, mourning on Shabbat. No mourning on Shabbat. Shabbat we celebrate. Still keep it in our consciousness that we're in the period leading up to Tisha B'Av. But no external mourning, no outwardly signs of mourning. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.